Hey guys, it's time to check in again for our next lecture test. Hopefully everything is going well. Please reach out to me if you're having any problems, as always. And so I want to take a few minutes and just kind of talk about Lecture 5 material. And so, as always, you have a list of things to know. This should be in the packet that you purchased in the bookstore, as well as it's printable on Moodle. And so what we've got here are our objectives. Now I want to kind of clarify the order that we're going in, so you can see that Lecture Test 5 is over Chapter 12, but the last chapter that we covered was Chapter 9. And so I kind of wanted to go over a little bit about why we're covering things in the way that we are covering them. So Chapter 10 and 11 are actually chapters over muscles. And in order to understand muscle contraction, we have to understand how the nerves work, how the nerves can tell the muscles to contract. And so that's why we're actually going to be covering Chapter 12 before we cover the muscular system. Because we need to understand what an action potential is. We need to understand how the action potential moves along the neuron. We need to understand what happens at the synapse. And so we're going to go a little bit backwards, and we're going to cover the nervous system first, just kind of the basics of the nervous system. Then we're going to cover the muscles, and then we're going to go back to the nervous system to finish out AMP1. So hopefully you've kind of found your groove and you've been working along. I know Lecture Test 4 probably felt like a lot because you had 4 chapters, really kind of 2 and then a couple other additions. But if you are having any issues, once again, please feel free to reach out. I've had a few of you guys check in with me. And just little things that I've learned is like, number one, some people didn't know that you needed the packet from the bookstore. I reference it often. I think some people aren't necessarily watching these videos. Just be sure that you're just paying attention to Moodle and looking at all the resources available. So in Chapter 12, we're only going to be looking at one chapter, but it is going to be broken up into several parts. And so in Chapter 12, you're going to be taking a look at these 8 objectives. And I believe the videos or the notes are broken down into Objective 1 through 4. It's pretty much Chapter 12, Part 1. And then you're going to take a look at 5 through 8 in Chapter 12, Part 2. And so because this is a 1-chapter test, I want you to notice that there's only one essay down here. Okay, so you still have your word bits, you still have your essay, but we're only going to have one there. Okay. Now, the first one, draw and label a graph of an action potential, you are going to find that one in Part 2. And you're going to need to know things like depolarization and repolarization. Number 2, it says describe the 4 channel proteins. Now this one is going to be actually Objective 4. And it's pretty technical. It kind of goes back to Chapter 3, I believe, where we talked about transport. And we talked about passive and active transport, things of that nature. And so in order to understand the material in Part 2, you really kind of have to understand what's going on with these proteins. And then the third one are list the events that occur at the neuromuscular junction. And so I want to go ahead and expand on this one a little bit further. So first of all, I would encourage you to put a giant star here by number 3, kind of a hint there. So you only have one essay on your test, and I'm telling you to star number 3. Okay, number 3 is going to be pretty important. This is one of the things that we need to understand before we move to the muscles and muscle contraction. And so I do want to take another minute just to kind of show you. So once again, essay number 3 says, list the events that occur at the neuromuscular junction. Now another name for a neuromuscular junction is the synapse. And so this is actually Chapter 12, Part 2. And I just wanted to show you, so it starts in Objective 8 by kind of clarifying the different types of synapses. And we're going to be dealing with the chemical synapse, and that's the one you're going to be expected to answer questions about. And so on that essay of list what happens at the synapse, here you have 2 slides. You have slide 36 and slide 37. Notice that They are the events at the synapse, okay? And this is a very technical essay. So in order to answer this question properly, you're going to have to go through and understand this material. Now, one thing I want to encourage you not to do is try to memorize every single word on these 2 slides. That is going to be overwhelming. It's going to be too much. What I would recommend is that you break it down into shorter pieces. So like for instance, the AP is always going to be short for action potential. So the AP reaches the axon terminal, okay? If you tell me that, that's going to be a check, okay? Because it tells you to start when the action potential reaches the axon terminal. So AP reaches the terminal. Voltage gated calcium channels open. So action potential reaches the terminal, calcium channels open. That right there would be 2 checks. All right, calcium ions diffuse in. That would be another check, okay? So what I need you to do for that essay is to pay attention to these 2 slides here, okay? So this is where you're going to use the information in these 2 slides, slide 36 and 37, to prepare for essay number 3. And that's the one that I told you to star, okay? So that kind of covers our list of things to know, and so now I just want to go to Moodle and take a look at all the things that you have available. Okay, so here's our due date. We're looking at Monday, April 28th for the Lecture 5 test and all of your Lecture 5 homework assignments. Here's the video that you need to watch, and you're watching that now, so we've already got that covered. You have 2 sets of notes, was broken down into part 1 and part 2, and as always, you have note handouts to go with them if you like. We also have our lecture recordings, which you can see that these are pretty much all of the lecture recordings that you need for Chapter 12. And then you have your study materials. A lot of these are the handouts that you have in the packet. I would encourage you to take a look through all of those handouts. Many of those can be used for practice. You have some video questions that could be helpful. You have some labeling pages that might be helpful. And then there's a lot of other videos, and so I want to encourage you to take a look at these. Notice that a lot of them are pretty short, 1 minute, 4 minutes. This right here may be a great area to look if you're struggling with understanding. The nervous system is very technical, and so these videos can be helpful to you. You've also got some handouts and practices for part 2, and once again you have some more videos that you can watch. And so sometimes if we're just reading it in the notes, it may be difficult, but if we see it in a video, it might be easier to understand. So there's several videos that are posted for you that can hopefully help your understanding. As always, you have practice materials that are not required, but definitely highly encouraged. And then I want you to notice that there are more graded activities for this particular unit than you typically have, okay? So you have at least like 3 different quizzes. You also have several videos that you have to watch. And remember that these videos, in order to get that grade, you must submit at the end of the video. Okay, you have to make sure you go all the way through and submit it at the end in order to get that grade. So that is pretty much going to wrap up our general overview. As always, you have 2 options for your test. I definitely encourage you to use the testing center if at all possible. I'm definitely still having some issues with some Respondus lockdown and people following directions. So I just want to make sure that you know that this is an option, and it's definitely a recommended option. So that wraps up everything that you need, and I hope you guys are doing well. Please reach out if you need me, and that is going to be all for today. Good luck on Lecture 5 material.